the radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show. I hope everybody's having a great day, a great week. I spent all day so far. I spent at doctor's offices, so didn't have much time to prep. So got lots of content, so not a problem there. But God, I hate just waiting at doctor's office. You wait and you wait hours. I mean, it's like you see the doctor for 10 minutes, but you wait for hours. It's bad in the U.S. It's really bad in Puerto Rico. I mean, really bad. Anything in the U.S., it just multiplied by 5, and that's Puerto Rico. Anyway, bad news for me. So I need shoulder surgery. My left shoulder is like, I've got a tendon, a completely ripped apart tendon, and so I'm gonna need surgery. So anyway, it sucks. Not traveling in October because I'm going to be recuperating in October and part of November. So we'll see how all that goes. But and not the curveballs. I think from what the doctor told me, it's probably the lifting the suitcases because that's what I do, right? I travel all the time. It's lifting the suitcases in the aisle, twisted, one arm going, just a ridiculous posture and everything. And I've torn a tendon in the shoulder. So anyway, that sucks. I think is the technical term. It'll mean now the shoulder will be out of commission in terms of a lot of heavy lifting for, I don't know, after the surgery for like 4 to 6 weeks, which sucks. Limited traveling and limited doing stuff and limited sleep, I expect, and it sucks. Sucks. Technical term. All right. In the meantime, we go on. And so just to give you a sense of what it's like to get older, not old yet, older, I have something torn in my knee. I have something torn in my hip. My knee's going, my hip's going. I've always had back problems, so my back is just a disaster, still is a disaster. I just had an MRI down at the back, and it just looks awful. Anyway, back, right? And now my shoulder's gone. So basically, joints. Somehow, you got to take care of your joints as you're going older. And I don't think it's excessive exercise. I think it's probably not enough exercise. I think basically the more you build up the muscles around the joints, the less joint problems you have. So, and my back is certainly not exercise because my back went out when I was 19. So anyway, it sucks. All right, let's see. I see super chats are flowing in. Don't forget to make them $20 or more. I'm kidding. We take all super chats. Johnny Ruiz, thank you for the sticker. That's great. So we got stickers going as well. All right, let's start. Where are we going to start? We're going to start. And I apologize for not doing a show yesterday. Yesterday during the day was like meetings all day. I was going to do a show in the evening, and I was just too tired. I was just done. I don't have arthritis. I do not have arthritis. I just screw up my joints. I tear tendons or whatever the equivalent is in your knee, and I have ruptured discs up the kazoo in my back. And I have some bone growth in my hip that's causing a tear there. So anyway, body is slowly falling apart. I think the shoulder things. So I asked my doctor today, what could have caused the shoulder? I mean, it could have been an exercise and heavy loads or too many reps. And he said, no. Given how much you travel, Yaron, it's probably loading that bag that you take on the plane, which I know you probably cram with lots of stuff, and it probably weighs a ton, up into the top compartment. And you probably did a movement there that you're not supposed to do, and you ripped a tendon. So, yeah. John says he's 80, and he's not looking forward to getting old. Yeah. I don't know what my excuse is. I have no idea. So, but I'm not looking forward to getting old either. But and my joints are blah. Anyway, we'll fix the shoulder. We'll get it really, really strong, and we'll keep going. So my plan is still on the books, 120. That's still the plan. We're still working under the assumption that my joints will somehow make it. All right, heart is good, brain is good. The rest we'll just have to manage as we go along. What was I going to talk about? Yes, we were going to start with Netanyahu. So Netanyahu gave his big speech in front of Congress yesterday, and I think it was 70 Democrats didn't bother to show up as a protest against Netanyahu. What's her name? One of the squad, Talib, was there. She held a little sign. It was kind of little, something about genocide in front of Netanyahu, kind of just in front of his face. Didn't really bother Netanyahu. He gave the fire-breathing, motivational, we can all get behind speech that I expected him to give. He is, as I've said over and over and over again, no, it had genocide on the sign. I saw the sign. It had genocide. I don't think it was war criminal. Maybe she had two signs. Maybe she had a war criminal sign, and she flipped it between the genocide sign and the war criminal sign. Anyway, he gave the fire-breathing, great speech that we all expected. I expected anyway. It was a good speech. It blamed Iran. We are fighting your battle. This is not a battle of civilizations. It's a battle between civilization and barbarism. I mean, thumbs up. Yes, everything. I agree. Now live up to it. That's Netanyahu. Live up to the speeches. Speeches are fantastic. They've always been good, Bibi. We have no complaints about the speeches. Live up to them. Actually act. Listen to your own speeches. And then go and do what you say should be done. If you do that, wow, you save Western civilization. Anyway, it was good. It needed to be said. It needed to be said to the United States. It's too bad Netanyahu is the vehicle. I still think Netanyahu is nothing but a power-lusting politician who again doesn't live up to his speeches and who doesn't care about anything except sustaining power. Interesting, Washington, D.C. was flooded with thousands of people who were demonstrating against Netanyahu, massive pro-Hamas, and let's name them what they are, pro-Hamas demonstrations all over Washington, D.C. And just to be clear about what being pro-Hamas means in the American context, because Americans, I don't think, quite understand, the protesters made it very clear by taking down the American flag outside of Union Station in Washington, D.C., a big, beautiful American flag, made in China, probably. That is the one flaw of this flag, and maybe this is why they did it to them. Maybe this wasn't the pro-Hamas far left. Maybe this was the National Conservatives who did this. I don't know. But they took down, because it was a made in China American flag. Anyway, they took down the American flag at Union Station, and they burnt it, and they danced, and then they horrifically It had graffiti all over the monuments there and everything. I mean, just a disgusting, despicable display of anti-Americanism, a disgusting, despicable display of anti-civilization, of really pro-barbarism. These people waving the Hamas flag, putting Gaza everywhere, gays for Gaza and all of that. Netanyahu made fun of that. Yeah, I mean, Cook says Bush also gave some fantastic speeches. No, he actually didn't. We can talk about that. We'll talk about that. We'll get to your question later, but he didn't. I don't think he did. All of his speeches were terrible. I can't think of a single good speech that Bush gave in terms of content or in terms of style, but certainly in terms of content. Anyway, yes, they were demonstrating, vandalized, burned American flags. It took this morning, this happened yesterday, for a group of Republican congressmen to go to Union Station where these monsters raised a Gazan flag, a Hamas flag, up instead of the American flag. Nobody running Union Station had the sense to take down the Gaza flag. Even if you didn't have an American flag to replace it, take down the Gaza flag, the Palestinian flag. So today, a group of Republicans went over there, took down the Palestinian flag and put up an American flag in its place. So it gave the Republicans a nice photo op. But yeah, just disgusting. The protesters, what drives them, what motivates them, you know, and remember what they're adoring, what they're promoting, what they're supporting is Hamas. It's the most barbaric, the most horrific, violent, disgusting, form of Islamism these days. So what they're advocating for is Islamism. And when they say Hamas is coming, which I guess they sprayed on one of the monuments, they're dead if Hamas comes. Hamas is not going to spare them as, you know, the leftist pro-peace people who lived close to Gaza border discovered that their politics didn't matter. Hamas hates them, will kill them, will rape them, will torture them, will brutalize them in any way that they can. Truly despicable, these protesters. And again, not reflective of the American people. Again, an example of the left being despised ultimately by the American people. And the farther left you go, the more damage these people do to the Democratic Party. You know, more demonstrations like this will guarantee that Trump gets elected, because nobody wants that. And if Kamala and Biden's and the rest of the Democratic Party don't find ways to distance themselves from this phenomenon, these kind of demonstrations, these kind of views, this kind of attitude, this kind of anti-Americanism, pro-barbarism, Democrats are finished. They'll be wiped out. What did I want to do? Yeah, I want to say thank you to Silvanos and thank you to Stav and thank you to Enric for their stickers. Very much appreciate those. All right, that is Netanyahu. He meets today with Kamala and with Biden, and he meets, I think, tomorrow with Trump, covering all his bases. Trump was not happy with Netanyahu, so that'll be an interesting meeting. It'll be interesting to know if Trump chews him out. He was not happy with Netanyahu. Then in 2020, Netanyahu basically came out and acknowledged Biden's victory way too early for Trump's liking. So he was very upset at Netanyahu at the time, and expressed it recently. So it'll be interesting to see how that meeting goes. So that is Netanyahu. Kamala is on the campaign trail. You can already see a difference among Democrats between Kamala and Biden. I mean, there's just energy there. I mean, she is horrific. Many of her views parallel or have paralleled in the past the far left of her political party. I think she is an empty vessel for the most part. She's not particularly smart. She's got a lot of issues, right? But she's young and energetic relative to Biden. Well, pretty much anybody's young and energetic relative to Biden. But I know some 95-year-olds who are young and energetic relative to Biden. But she's out there generating a lot of energy, I think, among Democrats and the base. I think she got a little bump from the whole the fact that she's new and coming out the gate. She's gotten a bump in the polls. She's getting a bump of support. I think the last big endorsement will come sometime probably this weekend from Obama. Both Obamas will endorse her, I think, this weekend. I think she's going to hit the convention running. The question will be, can the Democrats pull off an energetic convention? The Republican convention was super energetic and super uniting, of the Republicans at least. Can the Democrat convention do something similar? Will they be able to sideline the wackos? That's going to be a big part of the Democratic convention. Can they prevent massive demonstrations outside? Can they silence the wackos, the woke, the crazy pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, and anti-American voices? Can they silence those to attract the independents and some Republicans who might not want to vote for Trump? They have an opportunity to do that, but will they be able to do that? And we'll get a first indication of how that is going with who Kamala chooses as vice president. Mark Kelly right now is leading in the what do you call it? The betting odds. He's leading. Trump has agreed to debate Kamala. I think there's still some debate about what channel they debate her on. Fox is invited them both to debate. So it's not clear where the debate will happen yet, but there will be debate between Kamala and Trump. That'll be fun to watch. I mean, the Trump-Biden debate was a train wreck from minute one, and it was just interesting to watch how bad the train wreck was. Kamala and Trump will be an interesting dynamic. It'll be an interesting dynamic. She'll match him in energy, but can she match him in insults? And then, how will she bob and weave her way away from the horrible positions, some of the horrible positions that she has? And how will she deal with the fact that Trump lies with such impunity that it's very hard to pinpoint him? I mean, Biden spent the entire first debate saying he lies, he lies, he lies, he lies, he lies. But you got to concretize it. You got to catch him on a lie. You've got to actually make it real for the audience that he's lying. You can't just leave it as a floating he lies. That's meaningless. Everybody assumes all politicians lie. The question is, he's lying about what? And what are you going to do about it? So I think the Kamala-Trump debate will be interesting. Oh, God, I'm going to be in Europe when it happens, so we'll see how I watch it. And what else? What else is happening with Kamala? She's doing rallies. She didn't attend Netanyahu's speech. If she'd attended Netanyahu's speech, she would have literally sat behind him, because she, as vice president, is president of the Senate. So she would have sat right behind Netanyahu. Her picture would have been up there the entire time. I think that would have been really good for her politically. It would have also, solidified her in terms of, maybe not support for Israel, but at least not negation of, and it would have, again, put her picture up. She would have been on television for quite a while Netanyahu spoke, and she missed out on that opportunity. She had another engagement. She gave a speech somewhere, but, it's a missed opportunity. Now, she probably did it in order to appease the far left. But look, the far left has nobody else to vote for. She's got to rally Jews who overwhelmingly vote Democratic usually. She's got to rally independents and Republicans and former Republicans. And, so she's got to have a strategy, and not attending the speech, not a good look, not good strategically, probably not good marketing, she did issue a statement about the protests. She's trying to distance herself from the really far left, but she should have been at the talk. She should have been at the speech. It's not good look for her not being there. She needs to get those Democrats who weren't supporting Biden because they felt he was distancing. It offended Israel, and because of the lack of condemnation of the protests at the campuses, she needs to get them back. Don't know if she will. We'll see. All right, let's see. What else? We forgot the other speech last night. Biden, of course, gave a speech. Was it last night or Wednesday night? All flushed together. Anyway, Biden gave a speech. He basically gave a speech, and he demonstrated to us the reason why he really couldn't run for office. Because even though it was a prepared speech, even though, he was reading it, he muffled his words. He was partially incoherent. It's sad. It's sad to watch somebody, get into that cognitive position. Anyway, he did this for America. He did this for democracy. As far as it goes, fine. He basically left, made the case why he doesn't need to resign for president. And last night was Wednesday. See how confused I am? Thank you, Rob. Last night was Wednesday. Yeah, all right. I'm waiting for that to sink in. I'm waiting for it to just sink in. He did praise Jefferson and Franklin. That's a good thing. It was not a bad talk overall. In the big picture of things, and given his condition and given what he has to do, it was not a bad talk. But the energy's all out, and the energy's with Kamala and with Trump. The Republicans are motivated. There's rumors now that Trump regrets choosing Vance, and Vance is not the right guy. He should have picked somebody else, and so on. But I don't think vice presidential nominations make that much difference, and I don't think they make much difference when it comes to Trump. It might make a difference for Kamala because she's got to solidify a certain image. And I think that, again, the senator from Arizona, Rosen from Pennsylvania, Cooper from North Carolina, or the governor of Kentucky, all of those will do that. She's got to pick somebody who's a male, strong, and from the center. It will be interesting. Shapiro, not Rosen. Why did I say Rosen? Is it Shapiro? I don't know. Obviously, I am confused today. This is what happens when you sit at a doctor's office all day, even if they don't give you drugs, the effect is very similar in terms of numbing your brain. Yeah, I mean, no VP has ever made a difference in an election, as far as we know. She is, who was Hillary's VP choice? I can't remember. I can't remember who Hillary's VP choice was. Yeah, Johnson obviously made the difference in 1960 because he got to, and of course the biggest, oh God, you remind me of Johnson. The biggest difference was not in an election, but in the outcome. Probably one of the great tragedies of all of American history. So yeah, one of the greatest tragedies of all of American history was Lincoln's choice for vice president, who then became president when Lincoln was assassinated, and basically backtracked on Reconstruction. And that was a kind of a Johnson, Andrew Johnson, that was his name? That was another Johnson. So he was just a disaster. Backtracked from Reconstruction. Basically, I think to a large extent, set the terms, set the context. He was not only sympathetic to the Confederates, he was sympathetic to slavery. He was from a border state, sympathetic to slavery. I mean, Lincoln chose him because he was a border state, and he thought he would get more votes from the border states as a consequence. He did win. He was worried he wouldn't win re-election in the midst of a war. He did, but God, he was a disaster, and he set the South up. So one of the things that Sherman got to the point, although Sherman himself was weak in the piece, but he got to the point where, he crushed the South. Grant and Sherman had crushed the South. And the South could have gone really through a real radical transformation. The land grants and everything, and real transformation with regard to relationship between whites and blacks. And instead, Johnson reneged on much of Reconstruction, and as a consequence, I think made possible ultimately Jim Crow and the KKK and the South descent into barbaric racism. And that is just one of those great, great tragedies. If Lincoln was still alive, if Lincoln had chosen somebody else, a real believer in Reconstruction, to replace him, it would have made a massive, massive difference for the future of the South. And the South wouldn't have stayed as poor and as backward economically and culturally as it did, as it landed up doing. Somebody asked, how was Grant? I don't know that history that well. It's a fascinating history. I wish I knew more about it. Maybe a project when I finish the current projects I'm working on, maybe that would be a project. But my sense is Grant was weak in the South as well. That is, Grant as well did not fully commit, and you could say that really the federal government kind of backed off, and the string of Republicans who won kind of backed off of the South and kind of state rights and let them do their thing, and did not really take advantage of the victory and insist on equality of rights. In spite of, they passed the constitutional amendments. I think in spite of Johnson, constitutional amendments were passed, but in practice, Grant was an abolitionist, so was Sherman, but they just weren't tough enough on the South, or Grant wasn't tough enough on the South when he was president, as far as I know. But again, my knowledge of that period of American history is weak, something I should probably work on improving at some point. All right, what were we talking about? We were talking about Biden's speech. Okay, I'm not sure there's that much more to talk about it. Okay, here's a bigger topic. We'll talk a little bit more about this. We've got two remaining topics, and then we'll go to the super chats. We got quite a few super chats already, doing pretty well for halfway through the first hour, but still looking for your support to get to our goal of $250 for the hour. Probably need another $75 for this hour, and then another $250 for the second hour. So please consider asking questions, and we'll go through those. I think I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock today, so we probably won't go over 2 hours. So we'll see how many questions I can get to. But let's try to get to the $500 mark, which is kind of the 2 hour mark. I'm just checking my calendar. Yeah, I've got a session at 5. All right. Okay. So Tyler Cowen in Marginal Revolution, which is his blog, his website, had a post about what is it that has made the country so pro-Trump. I mean, we all know all the problems with Trump, all the difficulties with Trump, all the challenges with Trump, primarily, his character and his stupid economic views. But what is it about the country that's made Trump so popular? What are the issues? And different people have different theories about what is it about the country. And Tyler Cowen makes 19 points. 19. So, I mean, 19, there's no such thing as 19 points, right? So we're going to go over them. We're going to go over the 19 points to see what we think of them. And I think there's an element of truth in all of them, but you've got to be able to essentialize. You should be able to boil down every 19 points into 3 to 5. Like, there should be 3 to 5 reasons for anything. It can't be 19 reasons. Like, you should be able to consolidate. Should be able to consolidate. Yeah, Thomas says Martin Luther had 95 complaints against the Catholic Church. Now, you can talk about complaints, that's fine. But if you want to talk about causes, you've got to integrate the causes into smaller numbers, into chunks that are understandable even to yourself. I don't think 19 is understandable, holdable, or it lacks focus. All right, so we're going to go over these. The reason I'm doing it is Tyler Cowen. He's one of the most respected, influential intellectuals, certainly on the kind of free market side, even though he's not completely free market. He's about as free market as they get. He's not completely. But he is well regarded. He's got a column in Bloomberg. I think it's in Bloomberg. He's got a regular newspaper column. His blogs are very, very well read. He's everywhere. Tyler's everywhere. And I think I'll see Tyler maybe in Frankfurt next month at a conference in 2 weeks that I'm attending. I think he usually attends those, so I might see him there. But anyway, Tyler is very well regarded. So I thought we should go over his stuff and see, to what extent do we agree about these reasons as making Trump. And I'll say for Tyler, in no necessary order, because I don't see any logic to the order. So let's start. I don't think it goes from most important to least. So number one, Trump and his team understand that we now live in a world of social media. Only a modest part of Democratic establishment has mastered the same. Now, I think there are two aspects of this, right? One is I think he's right. The right, particularly the alt-right, the new right, the crazy right, the populist right, they figured this out really before almost anybody else. That is, they became masters on the medium, particularly Twitter, much before anybody else did. they became very good at trolling. They became very good at just using the medium to get their message out effectively. And Trump, of course, was a master of this before his presidency, during his presidency. I mean, he basically used Twitter to communicate with the world. And he would do it late at night, all day long. And then even when he left Twitter, he continued to do it from Truth Network, from Truth, whatever it's called. And it was replicated on all social media, everything he tweeted over there. That's kind of funny. Now we use tweet to describe any kind of activity that is similar to what you do on X. It's called X. So I think there's no question, and this relates to a larger point I have, which I don't, we'll go through these and we'll see, maybe we can aggregate these into one of these, is Trump is really good at marketing. Across the board, Trump is very, very good at figuring out issues, figuring out fault lines, areas in which he can gain ground on his opponent, and coming up with catchy slogans that fit into social media, but generally a good marketing. Trump's genius, his only area of genius, is in marketing. He gets it. He gets how to get his name out there and how to influence. John Parker, thank you for the sticker. Mary Aline, thank you. Thank you for the sticker. Appreciate it. All right, and then thank you, Apollo and Matt, for Matt becoming a member. No, Matt is a member. Why? I shouldn't be thanking Matt. He did nothing to deserve it. And Apollo for doing a gift membership. All right, second one. The Trumpian right, whether you agree with it or not, has been more intellectually alive and vital than the progressive left, at least during the last 5 years, maybe more. Being fully on the outs, those people were more free to be creative, noting that I'm not equating creative with being right and correct. I think he's right on this. Again, there's no question that there has been kind of a renaissance, is not the exactly right word, but a re-energizing or energizing for the first time of the American the American right intellectuals writing books, writing articles, using social media to get their views out there, but a real energy behind it. And you see that in new think tanks all over the place. You see that in the national conservative movement, the Christian conservatives, the integralists. These people are not just sitting and musing. They're not academics at universities, which maybe gives them most of them are not academics at the university, gives them a little freedom of action. They're not, and if they are at universities, they've already got tenure, so they can go out there and really, really speak their mind and try to have influence. Many of them are activists in addition to being intellectual, but there was real energy, whereas the left, nothing really is new in the last few years. There's been a growth in the impact of the kind of postmodern, woke intersectionality, but those views really come from about a decade ago. I was talking about intersectionality in early 2016, and that's when it was as an intellectual idea. And the reality is, I think since 2016, the left hasn't had any real new intellectual insight. All their insights come from that woke intersectionality tradition, which is now 10 plus years old, and which is not really new and not really exciting because it's really hashing over the same kind of far left, postmodern, detached from reality that they've had before. So I think this is right, that the greater excitement, the greater creativity is on the right. Their willingness, the right's willingness now to re-embrace Christianity is really interesting. After, I think, a long time, minimizing its importance. Now you've got J.D. Vance and Josh Hawley, unapologetically calling themselves national Christians, Christian nationalists. So we've got marketing, intellectuals. So intellectuals and marketing. 3, the deindustrialization of America has mattered more than people expected at first and has had longer legs in terms of its impact on public opinion. I would say this one is squarely in the mainstream account of the matter. Here I'm going to disagree with Tyler. What I would say is the perceived deindustrialization of America. And if the deindustrialization of America here means employment in industrial industries, because as I've said many times, America has not really deindustrialized. It's increased its capacity to produce stuff. It produces more stuff today than it did probably ever. But it does it with fewer people, a lot fewer people. I had a graph of this, but employment in industrial has gone down. 90% of that, 90% of the decline in industrial employment is robots, computers, and only 10 is China or outsourcing, China, Mexico. But it doesn't matter. It's the perceived deindustrialization and the lack of industrial jobs and the perception that we lost them to foreigners. That has become a major issue, no question. Both left and right, they all believe this. They all think it's true. They only disagree on how it should be dealt with. And that is a huge issue. And that's true. So that is a problem that American people look to Trump to solve. 4, many Trumpian and MAGA messages have been more in vibe with the negative contagion effects of our recent times. So many Trumpian and MAGA messages, again, I'd say this is marketing, so I would put marketing together, but they've been more in vibe with the negative contagion effects of our recent time. Yes, the negativity, the crime was not accelerating, it was not high when Trump ran in 2016. It didn't matter. The vibe was that Trump crime was high. Now, we can ask ourselves, why do we have so many negative contagion views? Why do we have such negative views about crime, about immigration, about our economy, about industrialization? But no question that Trump knows how to capitalize on those vibes. I would put all of that clearly under marketing. He's great at marketing. Great at marketing. 5, the Democrats made a big bet that trying to raise the status of blacks would be popular, but at best they had mixed results. Some part of this failing was due to racists, some part due to immigrants with their own concerns, and some part due simply to the unpopularity of the message. So this I would categorize under a general heading called Democrats' mistakes or Democrats' unpopularity, which brought about Trump's popularity. Now, I don't know what they did to try to raise the status of blacks, but I get that. Status of blacks at the expense of Asians, at the expense of Hispanics, at the expense of immigrants. And that turned out to alienate Asians and Hispanics, and that's why he would argue they've shifted more to Trump. I doubt that. I doubt that that was the cause. So I'm skeptical about this one. But again, I would put this under Democrats have gone too identitarian, too postmodern, too woke. 6, the ongoing feminization of society has driven more and more men, including black and Latino men, into the Republican camp. The Democratic Party became too much of a party of unmarried women. Another weird one, which I'm not sure I agree. And here's the main thing I'm going to say about this, even though I think you guys will disagree, and I'm sure Tyler will disagree. Trump's about the least manly man I can think of. Now, it's true that taking the bullet and standing up and putting his fist in it, that was a pretty manly thing to do. And I give him kudos for that. And it's out of character for Trump. Trump is a whiny wimp. He's constantly complaining and whining and blaming others and never taking responsibility for anything. I mean, what is masculinity? Even think about masculinity in kind of the conventional John Wayne, Gary Cooper sense. What is it? It's strong. It's never complaining. It's not showing much emotion. It's projecting quiet strength. It's never beating up on the weak. It's looking down on the weak. Right? If you had a weak opponent, would John Wayne have a gunfight with somebody who he knew he could beat easily? No. He would try to get out of it at all costs. Now, whether that's right or wrong, whether he should or shouldn't is put aside. But that's the image of kind of the American masculine hero, right? Trump is none of that. He's a narcissist who's constantly worried about how he looks. He's worried about, he puts people down. His strength is beating up on weaklings, complaining about how people look, insulting them. He's a bully. He's not masculine. The masculine is the guy who stands up to the bully. And of course, he is constantly playing the victim. Oh, I lost. They stole the election from me. Oh, the media didn't like me. Oh, it's the Russians after me, whatever. He is aggressive against the kind of people that masculinity, as conventionally conceived of, he should be protective of. So I don't think it's his masculinity. Now, I agree about feminization of society. I think Trump is a symptom of that. Trump is a symptom of that. That his whininess actually appeals is a sign that society is being feminized. It's a sign. I mean, it's all these Republicans, tough men who are all constantly victims and believe in conspiracy theories, and there's nothing masculine or tough about them. So, I think it's there's something here about the Democratic Party becoming feminized. I don't think Trump, though, is the counter in a sense of masculinity. I think there's something much more interesting going on here with regard to victimhood, which both Republicans and Democrats share, right? It's just they disagree about who the victims are and who's at fault, but they definitely both are whiny and whine about victimhood. And it's not about criticizing, right? Trump doesn't criticize. He insults in superficial, stupid ways. Again, not masculine at all. Now, I believe in fighting the left, in pointing out how bad and sometimes evil they are. But there is a difference between doing that and between the kind of stupid insults and dismissiveness that Trump engages in. Trump doesn't express any healthy, masculine characteristics. I don't think he expresses any masculine characteristics. Grabbing women by the, as he says on that famous tape, that's not masculinity. It's not masculinity. Sleeping with porn stars is a sign of, it's a sign of weakness, not of strength. Sleeping with Marilyn Monroe, that's a sign of masculinity, right? Difference between JFK and Trump. Both pragmatists, complete pragmatists. Even if you're talking about escorts, doesn't matter. It's a disgusting, weak, stupid way of talking about people, whoever you talk about. And again, sleeping with porn stars, not particularly masculine. Kind of low-hanging fruit, you'd call it. Sleeping with prostitutes, not particularly masculine, low-hanging fruit. The comparison is, if you're going to be a womanizer, have standards. Have standards. He has no standards. Zero, zilch, none. Despicable. Anyway, where are we here? So, I think that there's something here about the feminization of society, weakness, victimhood. But notice, Republicans play the victim just as much as Democrats do. The good old boys are playing victim just as much as the Democrat elites do. So here it's a feminization across the board of both Republicans and Democrats. Now, I don't think stoicism is the key to masculinity either. I'm just saying it was. The American view, I don't think it is. I don't think it should be. But it cannot be the flip side. It cannot be being an emotionalist zero. Right? It has to be an appropriate display of emotions. And it has to be a quiet, non-boastful, not narcissistic toughness. Like narcissism and masculinity do not go together. Do not go together. And low self-esteem and masculinity don't go together. And Trump's low self-esteem doesn't go together with with masculinity. Anyway, I don't see, I think this is all in the perception of a feminized culture. Trump seems masculine, right? In that perception of a feminized culture, but only in that perception. Kennedy was a narcissist, but nothing is compared to Trump. Oh, come on. I mean, the differences are so stark. And I'm no fan of Kennedy, one of the worst presidents in American history. So don't get me wrong, but character-wise, one of the worst people who's ever been president, and yet Trump beats him on both counts. All right, 7. The Obama administration brought, to some degree, both the reality and perception of being ruled by an intellectual class. People don't like that. Didn't like that. I think there's something here, but I don't think it was the Obama administration. I think this has been building for a long time. I think it's we've always been ruled by an intellectual class. People have always known that, but they didn't care. They accepted it. It's the antagonism to elites that percolated up through the Bush and the Obama administration. But the real question is, why did that happen? What is it about the intellectuals that are so despised? Well, A, the intellectuals became more irrational, but B, The public became more emotionalistic, less intellectual. So they resented the gap between them only increased. The common people became less and less intellectual. 8, Democrats and leftists are in fact less happy as people than conservatives are. On average, Americans notice this, if only subconsciously. I don't know, but you can add this to things Democrats did, that category. I don't think this is particularly important. And I don't know, generally, I don't believe happiness studies. I don't know that anybody knows how to measure them. There's a high correlation between happiness and contentment, or what people identify as contentment. I don't think that's happiness. So religious people will say they're happy, but they're not. They're just not maybe as in existential angst as maybe some people on the left. That doesn't make them happy. It's a different type of mental state which they associate with happiness, but that's not it. Anyway, happiness, whole topic. I don't think this one is even true. 9, the relentless egalitarian message of Democrats is not so popular. That's an understatement. And furthermore, since every claim must have messengers, it translates in living practice into I am better than you all vibe. Americans notice this, if only subconsciously. I mean, I think this is a huge issue. The Democrats' message of egalitarianism, of equality of outcome, of so-called equity, is evil and wrong and fundamentally, deep down, anti-American. It is fundamentally anti-American. And Americans know this and sense this. America is a land of merit and excellence and achievement and hard work and bootstrapping yourself and all of that. And Democrats have just alienated much of America by arguing that everybody should be equal, going beyond what I think is very popular in America. Oh, we need to give everybody a leg up. We need to have what do you call it? Welfare. We need to help the poor. We need all that is popular. Everybody loves that. Nobody wants to do away with that. But taking it to the next step of we want equality of outcome, we want the equivalence of communism. That's never been American. That's never been. So this is the main issue, I think, more than anything else, why the left is hated. Number 10 is the woke gambit has proven deeply unpopular. Those are the same. Like the woke gambit is that. It's egalitarianism. That's what intersectionality is. That's what the whole woke agenda ultimately is. It's why what Hamas hates about Israel is that they hate merit, they hate success, they hate achievement. They hate capitalism. Woke, everything it touches, ultimately, underneath it is egalitarianism. So I would have one big category of leftist egalitarianism, leftist postmodernism is very unpopular, very unpopular. And that has alienated Americans against the Democratic Party. And here's another one, which I think is related to exactly the same issue. Trans support has not been a winning issue for Democrats, but it's hard for them to let it go. Yeah, but again, this is the same thing. It's to take the perceived weakest and raise it up. No matter the source of that weakness, no matter how, anti-reality the cause might be, raise it up. Make a big deal out of it. That's the intersectionality, postmodernism, woke, identitarianism that has just alienated most Americans from the left. And to the extent that that is part of the democratic image, then anybody should be able to beat them. And the fact that Trump is beating them by such a small margin right now is because Trump's weak. I think Nikki Haley would be way ahead right now. I think almost anybody would be way ahead right now. Much bigger margins than Trump has in the polls. I think it's Trump is a weak candidate. Yeah, and well, the problem's been festering for a long time at the universities. And this goes back 100 years of leftist education, but particularly since the 60s generation became professors. So over the last 40 years, it's bubbled to the surface. It's become a reality, and full-blown insanity and evil of it. It's become that reality in the last 10 or so years. It became a reality in the early 20-teens with, you remember, microaggressions and all of that crap, and which all turned into woke and all this other stuff. But it's been in the works for a long, long time. All right, number 12. We're almost at 19. Immigration at the border has, in fact, spun out of control. And that has been a key Trump issue from the beginning of this campaign. And I write this as a person who is very pro-immigration. You can imagine how immigration skeptics feel. I mean, this is absolutely right. Trump has been brilliant at exploiting this and understanding this. And he understood it in 2016 when it wasn't that bad. And now it's worse in a sense of the pictures of hundreds of thousands of people crossing the border. And he's completely exploited this. But the question is, why are people so antagonistic to immigration? And why has the immigration problem allowed to fester? Why haven't we solved it? And here you have to ask the question of why are Americans so anti-immigration? Why is immigration not something that they can get together in Congress in a bipartisan way and solve? This is not hard to solve. You basically do away with kind of the asylum visas, and you increase dramatically work visas of all kinds for all levels of work. And that would get rid of what's going on at the border. And it's not hard to do that. And everybody claims, the Republicans all claim, oh, we're not against immigration. We're just against illegal immigration, which is a bold-faced lie for most of them. Because if that was the position, then they would propose a bill that actually dramatically increased immigration, and did away with much of asylum, and that would solve the problem. There would be no problem at the border if that happened. What is mass migration? 1 million people coming in every year into a country of 350 million. Is that mass migration? No. 2 million people coming in? Is that mass migration? To a country of 350 million? When does it become mass migration? 1%, 3.5 million? We're not there today. So I don't know what you're worried about. We're not. I wish we were bringing in 3.5 million people every year. So they all have their little, they play with words. They play with words so that they can hide the fact that they're really anti-immigration. So they're against illegal immigration. Why do they care if it's legal or illegal? What's the big deal? They're against mass migration. How do you define mass migration? I mean, we had mass migration in the United States in the 19th century and early 20th century. There was real mass migration. Real mass migration. And clearly, we can say that it massively benefited the United States. So what is really hiding behind the resentment of immigrants in the 21st century? Is it their number? Is it the legality? Or is it where they're coming from? Or is it just really a resentment of immigrants and a kind of a nativism? I think it's primarily the last two. 13. It's always culture. It's always been culture. And Hispanic migrants today, I mean, culture is, again, just a euphemism for we don't like where they're coming from. And we're nativists. I mean, it's not like the culture in the United States is that great. It's not like Americans have done such a good job preserving the principles of the American Constitution and the American Declaration of Independence. There is no Constitution today because you Americans, I will say this as an immigrant, you Americans have screwed it up. The greatest generation was the generation that embraced the New Deal and embraced FDR and embraced the changing of the Supreme Court and embraced the attack on the Constitution. It is you Americans who brought about the welfare state, brought about a crummy, stupid, ridiculous foreign policy of American suicide. It is you Americans who passed the antitrust laws, who had Jim Crow laws, and then passed the rights-violating Civil Rights Act. That's you Americans. You're worried about immigrants? You Americans are the problem. No? You didn't do all those things? It wasn't you or somebody else I missed somehow? See, it's illegal immigration. Oh, no, it's not just illegal, it's mass migration. No, it's not mass migration, it's culture we're worried about. I mean, it's exactly to the point, exactly. No, it's not you. You didn't draft the Constitution. Wimps like you would have never drafted the Constitution. Americans today could never draft the Constitution. You're trying to preserve a culture in America today that has no clue what the Constitution says, has no clue what the Constitution means, has no clue what the Constitution represents, has no clue what the meaning of the Constitution is. In America today, nobody could draft the Constitution. If you had Americans today draft the Constitution, it would be awful. Not because of immigrants, but because of Americans. So you are all living off of, all of us are living off of the genius of a handful of immigrants to America, or children of immigrants to America who happened to immigrate in the 17th and 18th centuries to America, men of the Enlightenment, who the Republican Party today wants to poo-poo. Who cares about the individual rights? There's a concept for you. And it's immigrants coming to this country who actually have some appreciation of liberty and freedom because they know what the alternative is. Americans don't. Americans are willing to give that up, and you can see in how they're voting that they're willing to give that up. These are just as good as the 1930s immigrants, just as good as the 1920s immigrants, just as good as the 1890 immigrants. By the way, there were very few 1930s immigrants because by 1924, people like you guys shut the border destructively and horrifically. So, no. These immigrants assimilate just as well as Irish immigrants did. They assimilate as crime. They're less criminal than the Italian immigrants were. They assimilate just as fast as the Eastern European, the Poles, the Russians were. There's no difference. And the arguments against immigration in the early part of the 20th century were the same as they are today. Culture. Culture, they yelled. Culture, they screamed. Exactly the same arguments. Exactly the same arguments. And it's the same xenophobia and racism and ignorance. But if you look at the data, Mexicans, Hispanics, Latin Americans assimilate into this country just as well as the Irish and everybody else. And their voting patterns, not that different than immigrants of past generations. All right. Yeah, do we have time? All right, let's try to finish the 19, and then we'll go to questions. And if I don't have time, I'll leave some of these questions for next. 13, higher education has been a traditional Democratic stronghold, and it remains one. Yet, its clout and credibility have fallen significantly in the last few years. True, again, because of the woke and everything else, but that's the problem is he's listing them all out instead of categorizing them with some headers. Integrate them. The integration here is so evident. 14, the Democrats made a big mistake after going after big tech. It didn't cost them many votes. A big mistake going after big tech. It didn't cost them any votes, rather money and social capital. Big tech, most of all Facebook, was the Girardian sacrifice for the Trump victory in 2016, and the Democrats achieved from that was a hollowing out of their own elite base. All right, that one I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about, so I'll have to figure that one out. 15, various developments in Afghanistan, Ukraine, and Israel did not help the Democratic cause. Inflation was very high, and the real borrowing rate went up sharply. This is true. Whether or not you think it's the fault of Biden or Trump would have done better. Crypto came under attack. The pandemic story is complicated, and its politics would require a post of its own. But I don't think it helped the Democrats, most of all because they ended up owning many of the longer-lasting school closures. I think that last one is true. I think some of the others, it's a mishmash of things. Some, there's value there, some there's not. I definitely think COVID, with a certain part of the population, played against the Democrats. Inflation, huge against the Democrats, even though a big part of it was caused by Trump. He's not perceived as having caused it. So yes, you could say world events and economic events played against the Democrats. Okay, 16. In very simple terms, you might say Democrats have done a lot to make themselves unpopular, and not had much willingness to confront their own. Their messages make this hard to face up to, since they're supposed to be better people. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole category here of Democrats completely screwed up. By the way, the debt, Trump was as bad as one of the worst presidents in American history in terms of debt. You wouldn't, because of rising debt, you wouldn't go for Trump. Trump would be the last person you would go to after he ran up government spending during his administration, just as bad as Biden, if not worse. 17, Trump is funny. I'm not sure he knows he's funny. I'm not sure his supporters know he's funny. Trump raised government spending more during his 4 years than almost the entire Obama administration, 8 years, almost. 18, Trump acts like a winner. This is true. Americans like this, and his response to the failed assassination attempt drove this point home. He's got the pseudo self-esteem down. He pretends to have self-esteem, and it convinces some people. And then 19, Biden's recent troubles and the realization that he and his team have been running a con, at least as big as the Trump one. It has become a trust issue, not only age or cognitive issues. Yeah. All right, so basically, I think most of what he says here is true. It's just not essentialized. And if I had to do it, I'll take as a challenge. I'm going to do my 5 reasons Trump is as popular or as successful as he is. My 5 reasons. So we will do that in an upcoming show. I'm going to skip to China unless we have time at the end, because we've got a lot of questions. So let me go to the questions. Let me remind you that on August 3rd, there is a screening of We the Living. We the Living is by far, I think, the best movie made of the best movie made of an Ayn Rand novel. It is a phenomenal movie. It's at 5:30 p.m. at the Facets Theater in Chicago. There'll be an introduction before the movie by the producer, the guy who cleaned it up. It's a beautiful production. It's sharp pictures and sound improvement. And one of the things I liked is improvement is they changed the color of the subtitles, so they're now much easier to read. They used to be very hard to read. So even if you've seen We the Living, you should go see it again because this version is so much better, so much better. And then there'll be a reception afterwards with light refreshments and everything. Tickets are $35, and you'll get an opportunity to be in a theater full of other Ayn Rand fans, which in and of itself will be fun and enjoyable. So yeah, definitely go see the movie in Chicago. If you're in Chicago, it's a must. If you're not in Chicago, consider making a trip. It's worth the trip. It's an amazing movie. You can find information at WeTheLivingMovie.com. WeTheLivingMovie.com. We the Living Movie, one word. All right, let's see. Where are we? Yes. Super chat. Yaron Brook, Surgery Fund. I'm just a few years shy of your age. And man, you're right. Sucks is the word. Hey, you under 50 kids, enjoy your youth. Do not take your youth for granted. Absolutely. Well, enjoy any age you're at. Don't take your life for granted is the bigger picture. Rand Coley, latest CNN headline, Biden to forcefully push Netanyahu on ceasefire deal. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The deal is an Obama deal. He'll view this as his big accomplishment. There are major political forces within Israel pushing for this deal within Netanyahu's coalition. And certainly most of the opposition is united around this. There seems to be a majority of Israelis who want this deal. We don't have the details. We don't know what Israel is giving up in order to get the deal. So it's hard to comment on how bad this will be. I don't like any deal, but I realize there's going to be one way or the other. It's not surprising Biden is going to put pressure on him to do this. Trump will tell him not to, because Trump will want to make the deal. Trump wants the deal, and Trump is a deal maker. That's what he's about. Remember, it wouldn't be different in that sense. Ian, Mother Jones has an article out about the RNC already starting with election lawsuits, falsely claiming with voter rolls. They are going to go even harder with fraud claims after the election and are setting things up. Yeah, I mean, I'm skeptical of anything in Mother Jones. You have to start with that. I mean, it is very, very, very leftist, and it doesn't hide that fact. But there's no question. I mean, Trump has basically made sure that in a lot of these election-related jobs in the various Republican Party positions around the country, he has put 2020 election deniers. He has put people who will be willing to fight, who are willing to distort, to perverse, to do anything in order for him to win. So yes, expect a lot of lawsuits. I would not be surprised if this election is decided by the Supreme Court, that it goes to the Supreme Court one way or the other. This is not going to be pretty. Trump has made that very, very, very clear. He's learned his lessons from 2020. He has beefed up his legal team. He's beefed up the different teams in the different regions within the Republican Party. Remember, the Republican National Committee, the committee that runs the Republican Party, is now completely 100% a Trump entity. They are 100% supportive of Trump, and they're 100% do what he tells them to do. It's going to be very, very, very ugly unless Trump wins easily. Anything close is going to be very ugly. Thomas, is Kamala Obama's third term, talk left but forced to govern, centrist in the face that opposition controls Senate and House? Yes. I think Kamala is Obama's third term, and in that sense, maybe better than Trump's term, certainly better than Biden's, because Obama was kept from spending too much in that second term by a opposition-controlled House and Senate, I think. And let's hope. I mean, I said every time, I've said this for years and years and years, if you care about limited government, if you care about government spending, if you care about the government debt, the best you can hope for is a Democratic president with a Republican House and Senate. That's the best you can hope for. Now, it's true that the Republican House and Senate doesn't guarantee control on spending anymore. It used to, not anymore. But it's less, so it won't let the Democrats get out of control, and it won't let Republicans get out of control. So basically, gridlock. Gridlock is what I am rooting for, always. I'm always rooting for gridlock. And the particular members of the gridlock, how it's comprised, less important. Colleen, that was such a good rant about immigration. That should be a short video to share. Thank you, Colleen. I will let my video guy know, and of course I'll share it. You get a lot of views, and I'll get a bunch of people unsubscribing. That is sadly my fate. The better the rant, the more people leave me. The world is not quite ready for my views on immigration. The world is not quite ready for my views on Trump or on free markets. All right, Lucinda. Hi, Yaron. Just tuned in. Hope you're having a good day. We'll watch the parts of the show I missed later. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Lucinda. And have to give you extra super chats today to make up for the free writing trolls trying to get your attention. Again, keep up the good work and don't let the trolls get to you. Thanks, Lucinda. I don't. I get angry, but that results in rants like the one that Colleen really, really liked. I mean, without the trolls, how would I have gotten the rant? I mean, if you like the rant, you gotta allow for some level of trolling. Yeah, we definitely need to hear more of me trashing Americans who have no appreciation of the Constitution versus illegal immigrants who risk their lives to come to this country and try to make a better life for themselves and try to make a better life for their children. Yes, those are the people who are your enemy. Those are the people who are going to destroy your culture. The people coming here, risking their lives, giving up everything they have back home to make their life better. That is the enemy of Americanism. Yeah. Sell that to somebody else who's buying nonsense like that. Who cares if they're coming legally or illegally? I mean, illegally is just a matter of changing the law, right? I mean, what is legal or what is illegal? It's what is it rights violating? That used to be what mattered in America. Is crossing a border violating rights? And the answer to that is clearly no. I know you care because you use the illegal immigrant to hide behind the fact that you are a xenophobe who wants to, a nativist who wants to keep America the way it cuddly is right now and the way you think you like it. And you're afraid of the challenge the immigrants pose to you. You're afraid of the changes they bring with them. And you're afraid of what? The color of their skin, the nation of origin. You're afraid. You're afraid. So you're illegal. I'm an illegal driver. I speed. It's against the law. It's against the law to speed. Makes me an illegal driver. What are you going to do about it? You're going to put me in jail and in a camp, take away my kids? How bad? I'm illegal. I'm an illegal driver. I mean, it's really awful to be an illegal driver. So somebody crossed the border. If you'd make it legal to immigrant, if you'd make it easy to immigrant, there wouldn't be so many illegal immigrants. But an illegal immigrant who risked their lives to come to this country to make their life better, for a job, for their kids having a better life, that's heroic. That's heroic. And, you know, heroes sometimes break the law. I'm not for breaking the law, but heroes sometimes break the law. And if the law was more rational, if we had even a semi-rational immigration policy, a semi-rational immigration law, then yeah, fewer people would come illegally because it would be a lot easier to come legally. They're all here for work. Almost none of them are here for welfare. And very few of them get that welfare. But it's very easy to screen against that. I'm all for not giving any immigrants, legal or otherwise, welfare. Zero welfare. Until they become citizens. And then they can come and be parasites on the state. Right? Only citizens should be allowed to be parasitic on the state. Oh, God. I mean, the way they have to convolute themselves into pretzels to convince us that, no, they're not really this and they're not really that. There's really a rational reason for them to be anti-immigrants. I mean, I love that little book that Brian Kaplan wrote on immigration, on open immigration. And he takes every one of the anti-immigration arguments and he shows, okay, will you agree to no welfare? Then are you okay with them coming? No, even then. Here's the data about assimilation. Here's the data about this. Data doesn't matter. None of this matters. None of it matters. They just don't want the immigrants here. All right, Michael. All political parties today are irretrievably lost to collectivism, despite living in a post-Ayn Rand world. Yes, they are. That's what we're trying to change. And the whole immigration issue is basically collectivism versus individualism. And who would have thought that Americans would be on the side of anti-individualism, on the side of collectivism? Because that's what the anti-immigration side is basically adopting. Most of them, almost all of them, they're adopting a collectivistic approach. And that's the American approach, or at least the Trump American approach. Robert, it's a great day to have a great day. It's always a great day to have a great day. Michael, do you think Elon Musk is donating to Trump so he won't regulate space travel or to get further subsidies to Tesla? I don't think it's either of those. I think Elon Musk has moved ideologically to be more aligned with Trump. If you watch Elon Musk's interview with Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk has moved to hate the woke left. He's moved into a place where he hates, despises, for a variety of reasons, the woke left. And he views Trump as the alternative to the woke left. So I don't think it has to do with getting something in return. I think it has to do with wanting Trump to win. Michael, will the cost of living problem decrease as cities recognize they need to deregulate housing markets, or will the status only increase and people in their 40s will still have to have roommates? Look, the cost of living problem is localized. It's in localities that are anti-building. Cost of living is declining in a lot of places where there is building going on. And the cost of living crisis will continue as long as statists and as long as voters who are not in my backyard voters insist on not having more building happen. And cost of living will only come down in terms of rent and in terms of cost of housing when more stuff is built. And the question is, what will cause more stuff to be built? And by the way, I don't think Gen Zers are living more with roommates than any other generation. I mean, some of them went back to live with their parents more than other generations, but that has, I think, other sociological causes. But I think there's no question. If we allow more building, rents and home prices will come down. And the only thing preventing more building is the not in my backyard mentality of so many people. And I don't see that changing in some areas, but other areas come down. I mean, one of my arguments to you guys is if you find the cost of living where you live too high, move. There are plenty of places in this big, great country of ours that have a low cost of living, housing, where houses are cheap. Housing prices are coming down in Austin, Texas. Housing prices are coming down in Miami, Florida. Housing prices are coming in southern Florida. Housing prices never went up in big chunks of the country, in the middle of the country. Still, relatively low cost of housing in Atlanta, Charlotte. And these are nice places to live. So why are you living? Why are you staying in places that you can't afford? Move to places you can. Michael, does altruism lead to suicidal tendencies in nations and individuals? Yes. It devalues your own life. It says your life is not an end in itself, a value in itself. It's all beholden to others, to this greater value that is other people. And so it diminishes the value of your own life, and the consequence of that is more a suicidal mentality. A suicidal mentality. A bad foreign policy, a suicidal foreign policy, and a suicidal mentality you yourself. It's not that you want to kill yourself, that you do things that lead to you killing yourself. So it's not purposeful suicidal. Maribin's Philosophy at Work, another one of these secret love messages, which I'm sure most of you are working hard to try to decode. Marvin's right. At Philosophy at Work, I know you love classical music, the force, the tempo, the notes. But, what about the clef? Michael, did you see Musk's interview with Jordan Peterson? I saw segments of it. I haven't seen the whole thing. I will be watching the whole thing. Cook, George W. Bush also gave some fantastic speeches. No, he didn't. They were all awful. I know a lot of objectors were captivated by some of Bush's speeches. None of them were good. They were all bad. Sorry, if you give me an example of a good speech, I'd be happy to analyze and show you why it was so awful. From day one after 9/11, every one of them, starting with the one he gave at the Towers the day after, all the way to the ones he gave in front of Congress, just awful. Really, really bad ones. Mike, demonstrators in D.C. also sprayed Hamas is coming on the monument. Yeah, it's just awful. I mean, this is why people are attracted to Republicans when Democrats are behaving like this. It's not surprising. Matt, my generation is very politically apathetic. Are they somewhat justified given the current situation, or is apathy partly to blame for the situation? I don't know what your generation is. If you're talking about very young people are always apathetic to politics. I mean, voting among young people is very, very low almost in every election. So young people don't vote generally. So it's not, I don't think it's your generation in particular that's apathetic. And I don't think that apathy, young people, why should they have a political view? I mean, in many respects, starting out in life, excited about career, they're excited about their education, they're excited about love and sex and having a good time. Why would they worry about politics? So I don't, apathy, and you know, I don't think it's their apathy that is causing anything. And I don't think they're unique in being apathetic. I think every generation of youth is apathetic. Apollo, your opinion on the Latin phrase, per ardua, I don't know Latin, so I don't know what the Latin phrase means. I know you guys think I know everything, but I actually don't. There's a bunch of stuff I don't know. Have you watched Handmaid's Tale? Is this American Project 2025 conservative want to build? No, I haven't watched Handmaid's Tale. And look, conservative 2025 is a mixture of some very good things, closing the Department of Education or certain reforms that are very good, cutting spending in some areas, bolstering defense in positive ways. But it's also a bunch of very, very bad stuff. And there are definitely theocratic elements to the people behind Project 2025 and to J.D. Vance and to Josh Hawley. But I think Handmaid's Tale is a bit of an exaggeration. I don't think they think of it in those terms. Yes, they would like to see women back in the home. Yes, they would like to see women have more babies. But I don't think they're quite willing to engage in that kind of authoritarianism. I don't think that's a model for them yet. But if they're allowed to gain power, and if they're allowed to satisfy their Christian authoritarian fantasies, certainly could come to be. I haven't watched the series, no. I know something of it, but I haven't watched it. Wesley, it's reassuring to see that the anti-Western countries like South Africa, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Bolivia are some of the most backward places in the world. Yes. With all the problems and with all the horror that is America, it's still better than almost anywhere else in the world. All right, guys, still looking for $77. That's the number. $77. If you're there on the chat, you're there listening live, please consider using the super chat or doing a sticker. $77. That's, four $20 questions or a bunch of $10 questions, 8 $10 questions or a bunch of other stuff. But stickers you don't have to ask a question. It's just a bunch of stickers I'm sure would get us there, right? So just do $1.99, $5.99, $9.99, whatever. Emma DeLay, what do you think will happen to Social Security and Medicare in the future if the U.S. population continues to decline? Both Medicare and Social Security have said they will be insolvent in 2030s. Yeah, I mean, both are in deep trouble. They have been in deep trouble for a very long time. The only thing that can solve the problem is either Americans suddenly have lots of babies, but that's not going to help for 2030, or we allow a lot of working age immigrants, or we cut benefits. Those are the only solutions. And children's not going to help in time, and it's only going to get worse. Americans are not having children. I don't think that's going to change. We're not going to allow significantly more immigrants into the country than we have already. If anything, we're going to clamp down on them, both legal and illegal. All that's left is cutting benefits. There's no choice. There's no option. And, I'm for phasing them out completely. I think that both welfare, primarily for the middle class, and they're absurd and ridiculous, so we should cut them out completely. But that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is they're going to have to reform them, including raising retirement age and raising the payroll tax, and all of those kind of things are going to happen in the next 15 years, whether politicians want to admit it or not. They will have no choice at some point. Apollo Zeus, woke is just political correctness. It's yes, it's expansioning a broader approach to political correctness. Yes, it's political correctness on steroids. All right, Arum. Thoughts on voting Harris in an attempt to sever the Republican Party long term? MAGA seems like a dangerous cultural trend, whereas Harris seems to be typical establishment running on fumes. Yes, the problem is the Republican Party will not change unless Trump loses in a landslide. So, yeah, go ahead, vote Harris, but I'm telling you, if it's a small margin, which it probably will be, MAGA will continue to dominate the Republican Party. They'll just have another excuse. 2024 was stolen or something else, right? The only hope, and this I said in 2020, I said this in 2020. I said it. Nobody believed me then. I said it. The Republican Party is dead unless Trump loses in a landslide. Landslide. Yes, it's depressing. It's very depressing. Oh, by the way, Barry, thank you. $50 from Barry has brought us $13 away from the target. We can make it. Whoops, I didn't answer that. Emma says, if Medicare and Social Security go broke, do you think that immigration, especially work-based immigration, could become attractive to Americans. No, I mean, I don't think so, because I don't think that people think very deeply or very far or very thoughtfully. I mean, Japan faces very similar problems. It's slowly starting to increase immigration a little bit, but it's basically going bankrupt slowly. Europe is going bankrupt, and that's not changing their attitude towards immigration. The people are, more so than the politicians, are dramatically anti-immigration. No, I think the other powerful elements of nativism and fear are much more dominant than the economic arguments about the benefits of immigration. Brian, thank you for the sticker. And Colt Savage, thank you for the sticker. Really appreciate it. Guys, they're chipping away, slowly chipping away. Who are the Shin Bet protecting Israeli athletes? The Shin Bet is basically like the FBI, but on steroids. But on steroids. They are the Secret Service, the FBI, and the CIA all wrapped into one in terms of internal security. The Mossad is external spying. The Shin Bet is internal security. So they spy in the West Bank and in Gaza. They're involved in every operation in Gaza, but they're also spy on Israelis themselves. They are. I've got a Shin Bet story. One day maybe I'll tell it, but yeah. I'm curious about my file at the Shin Bet. Let's put it that way. I've got a file over there that one day I will try to access. Lucinda says, my girlfriend got gifted membership recently. Can you recommend 3 members exclusive shows for her to watch with her membership? Oh God, do I remember? I mean, it depends what your girlfriend likes. What does she like? Does she like, for example, does she like art? Because there's a number of really good shows that I did specifically on aesthetics. So if she likes art, like sculpture and music and things like, and movies, things like that, then yeah, she would love those. So, okay, here, I'm bringing up my membership. All right, so here's one. Female sculpture through the ages, that's one. Westerns, an American art form, that's another one. I think the one I did on radical enlightenment is pretty good. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. How to live a moral life in an irrational world. That's always a good topic. Favorite TV shows. That's another one with art, right? Here's one. The art of Michelangelo, Caravaggio, Bernini, and Vermeer. Michelangelo, Caravaggio, Bernini, and Vermeer. So that's a good one. Yeah, that'll give you some. I think those are, yeah. She should just watch them all. Do a marathon of Yaron Brook members-only shows. Thank you, Lucinda. Lucinda's gotten us over the target. Emma, do you think that if the federal government were to only relax work-based immigration laws, would only that boost U.S. economy and help with labor shortages, or would that not be enough? It would be huge. Huge. Let's say the United States embraced open immigration for anybody who came here to work, like work visas for anybody who found a job in the United States, which I've been promoting for a long time. U.S. GDP would skyrocket. Economic growth would go up dramatically. It wouldn't solve all the economic problems the United States has, but it would be a huge benefit. Now imagine you did that and you deregulated, and you cut taxes, and you cut government spending. The U.S. economy could balloon unbelievably. But just relaxing immigration restrictions would have a massive boost to the U.S. economy. Massive. Indeed, the U.S. economy has done well under Biden. I think, at least to some extent, if not to a large extent, because of the crisis at the border, because of all those immigrants who came in and created economic activity by working. 90+% of them work. All right, we got 15 minutes to finish all of these. Jesper, do most people hate Trump for the wrong reasons? No, I think most people understand, maybe implicitly, but they understand what's wrong with Trump. He's a brute, and I think most people get that. Mark Thomas, Yaron would like to get in touch with you. You've got my email, Mark. Just send me an email. Institute about you got the email, the Institute's email, a new policy initiative I'm involved in. Best time, ways to get in touch. Email me. Don't phone. Email me. Email Yaron at yaronbrookshow.com or Angela at yaronbrookshow.com. Just email me. An email AOI. You can find their web address on the website. Not your average algorithm. Christians seriously want us to believe God sent himself to kill himself and save us from a Satan he created. That's one of the many, many, many crazy things they want you to believe. Yes. They're still trying to argue it's not about Trump when every indication is it's all about Trump. They love Trump. It's like the illegal immigration thing. No, it's not about illegal. It's not about that. It's about something else. It's about this. It's about, they constantly up. You skate, something like that. But it really is about Trump. They love Trump. They love Trump. It's why Trump won the primary so easily, because they love Trump. It's not about the left. It's about the personality worship, literally worship, that so many on the right have when it comes to Trump. Jesper, why is Obama so loved internationally? Almost every Norwegian I know remembers him as maybe one of the greatest presidents in history. Well, because he had this, he has a presence, he has a certain charisma to him, he's respectable, he says the right things. I mean, not for me, I mean, I see right through what he says. I always thought he was one of the worst presidents in American history, and certainly one of the most evil ones, given his language. But he comes across as distinguished. He says all this leftist stuff, which everybody agrees with, because they're all leftists. He's an altruist without being ashamed of it. He says there's nothing special about America. America's just like every other country. I'm sure Norwegians love that when he says that. So I just think he conveys their views back to them in a distinguished kind of way. He's not American. That's why Europeans love him, because he doesn't have the presence of an American. Bush to the Europeans was a cowboy. Trump, justifiably, is a thug. So, Obama came across as a graceful, whatever. All right. Eyal asks, how much to review the TV show 1883? 1 season, 10 episodes. God. I mean, I usually charge, what, $250 to do an episode? So that would be $2,500. I mean, if you could tell me where I can find 1883, because I've been trying to find it, for $1,000, I'll watch the whole show. Give you a discount. RYPNOX. What do you say to someone who says that no immigration should be allowed if one immigrant is a bad actor? I'd say that is absurd. That is collectivistic nonsense. Collective punishment on the grandest scale of all, and it's just absurd. It would be like, one rape is too many rapes, therefore all men should be placed in house arrest. And that way we will get 0 rapes. I mean, almost only men rape, therefore, and generally crime happens at night. Maybe we should just have a curfew. That way nobody's outside, and then we're done. So no, that's just collectivism. And it's, again, another one of these excuses to hide behind them not wanting to admit what the reality is, which is They're afraid. They're afraid of the other. They don't want the other. Which is also collectivism. It's all consistent. Andrew, the Nat Cons want to conserve American culture. My idea of American culture has more in common with an immigrant who risked his life for freedom and to work than the notion of culture that the Nate Cons have. I agree with you. Nate Cons want an American culture which would be completely foreign to the American culture that the founding fathers tried to create and worked on and did create, not just tried, did create. A culture, by the way, that was completely open to immigration for 150 years. 150 years this country had open immigration. And it still had borders, had a fantastic culture, had a unique culture of individualism, which is what open immigration really symbolizes. A culture of individualism. And if you didn't make it in America, you went back home because there was no welfare, which is the culture we should embrace. We should be rabidly anti-welfare and pro-immigration. Rabidly anti-welfare and pro-immigration. What are national conservatives? They're anti-immigration and pro-welfare. Anti-immigration and pro-welfare. Mark Thomas, John Galt, sanction of the victim, political use. I don't understand the question, Mark. It's just ask a question. It has to be a question, a clause, question. Soupy Cask, how would you define woke? Is the word misused? No, I think it's usually used correctly. Woke is an attitude that places a huge amount of importance on your ethnic or on identitarianism, on identity, right? Identity meaning race, sexual orientation, what they consider identity. That places huge importance on that and has no tolerance for other views, and is grounded in kind of a postmodern view of the world. So it's intersectionality, but just a more in a accessible form. Intersectionality is very academic term. Woke is the term easily used, and I think we can see woke. I don't think it's that misused. I think most people know what it means. They know it when they see it, put it that way, even if they can't define it. Mary Eileen, to invade is to enter by force with hostile intent. I hate the expression invasion of our southern border. So dishonest and evil. Your thoughts? I agree with you completely. There's no invasion. They're not coming with guns. They're not coming to change the regime. They're coming to find work. They're coming to make a better life for themselves and their children. They're coming to have babies in America, which will make sure that their kids are American citizens and therefore have a better life. I mean, they're heroes in that sense. So no, invasion, this has nothing to do with an invasion. I mean, you could even argue that the Muslim migration, parts of it, into Europe were an invasion because they had a political agenda. They were motivated by a particular political agenda. These people are not motivated by political agenda. It's not what they're bringing. All immigrants bring their values, and yet the country survived immigration, far greater numbers of immigration in the 19th century and early 20th century. Surely we could survive more immigrants today when we're so much richer and more successful, you would think. Thank you, Mary Lynn. Andrew, reason, purpose, and self-esteem is a self-reinforcing cycle of positive energy generation. Yes, absolutely. I apologize, guys. I don't have a lot of time. Looks like Israel-Mali game tied 1-1. I don't know what even sport that is. Apollo Zeus, you're four types of people in this world. Me, you, beautiful women, and Robin. No idea what Apollo Zeus's issue is. Jasper, why did Obama apologize to Japan for the A-bomb? Because he thinks, like many Americans today sadly think, libertarians and leftists think that dropping the bombs was an immoral travesty, and he apologized for it. That is a disgrace. It's one of the reasons that I said I hated Obama. I think he's one of the worst presidents we've ever had. There was no complementary value system in the 1920s with 1920s immigrants. What there was a similarity of skin color. All your so-called value complementarity is just a disguise for your racism. That's all it is. That's all it is. There was no value complementarity between Italians and Germans and Irish and Poles and Lithuanians who all hated each other with a vengeance. But they all had the same color of skin. That's why we look back at them and say, oh yeah, and they've all assimilated. So we say, oh yeah, they're all okay. So you know, it's color skin that bothers you, not more than that. Mark, would you be interested in shows an altruistic moral system, Rose Cross? They had direct inspiration of moral systems of today, have research to share. I don't know anything about them. I'll look into it. Shali, if Hitler weren't a racist warmonger, would he still be a villain nowadays? Many countries have very similar socio-economic positions, sans overt racism, and no one seems to care. Yeah, I mean, he'd be Putin. He'd be Putin. And a little bit of, you know, nationalism, that's Putin. I mean, he fits perfectly, and Putin is a hero to many on the right. Simon Grassi, have you watched the movie Operation Finale? I don't think so. Remind me what it's about. Maybe I'll remember if I know what it's about. All right. Thank you, guys. Charlie says that Japan never apologized. Of course they didn't. Well, I mean, they kind of have. But yeah, I mean, America should never apologize, should never have apologized for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They should take pride in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Thank you, guys. Really, really appreciate it. In particular, you know, I have to point out Lucinda, who I think did $150 or over $150. So thank you, Lucinda. Thank you to everybody else, all the other super chatters. Thank you. We made our limit. You even got a rant out of me on immigration. And look, it's not even, you know, I worry about American culture. American culture is in decline. It's been in decline for 150 years. Not because of immigrants, sadly, but because of Americans. We need to resurrect American culture. I don't know how you know, we try our best. But, you know, it's not going to come from J.D. Vance. It's not going to come from Donald Trump. It's not going to come to Kamala Harris. So where's it going to come from? Us, minus the people who don't count, but us, and, you know, let's revitalize things with some immigrants. Not surprising, some of us don't even live in America, and some of us are immigrants. Shocking. All right, everybody. Yes, Leonard Peacock, America versus Americans. Good one to listen to. Talk to you tomorrow, 2 o'clock tomorrow. I might do a bulk of the show on sacrifice, which I'll spin into something positive ultimately. Probably look at a video, a talk that Jordan Peterson did about sacrifice and critique it, and then talk about what the antidote to sacrifice is. So that'll probably be tomorrow. All right, Simon, it's about the Mossad agent Peter Malkin. Oh. God, I have a feeling I saw it. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, I'll have to check it out. Thanks, Simon. I appreciate it. All right, guys, I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.